start another great race in the Precision Racing League. Green flag flies, we're underway. Side by side, door to door contact. Incredible action here in the PRL. And they come together. After all the fighting, it ends in tears.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker, the future is feeling.
Ever witnessed someone so fast on track you doubt you could ever be on their level? The mission of Advanced Motorsports is to demonstrate the speed is achievable for everyone. With the expertise of some of the best sim drivers in North America, we are set to release free content on social media and comprehensive guides on our website. For those seeking the ultimate experience, our Advanced Motorsport Institute and personalized coaching sessions are the way to go. No matter your level of experience, we invite you to follow us on our social media to learn to be fast.
One final race remaining in the Precision Racing League Cup Series season. It's season 2 of 2024, and you're watching it on RaceSpotTV. Charlotte Motor Speedway is the site of the final race of the year. Dylan Coyle alongside with Ewan O'Leary in the broadcast booth with you tonight, and I appreciate you guys all tuning in while there is some real-world racing happening at Charlotte Motor Speedway right now. We're going to do it virtually, though, for 90 minutes, or the lap base counter, wherever comes first. Let's look at the schedule and how we got to this point. 8 races so far, 1 to go in this 9-race season. This started out at a road course, Ewan, but it's definitely had its fair share of just intrigue by all the different places we visited.
Yeah, one road course at the start and then not returning to it again. But we've seen almost every variation of oval that you can possibly think of, right from the Super Speedway at Talladega and the end of April, right to the shorter tracks that we saw last week, for example, at Wilkesboro Speedway. This is where we are tonight, though. 1.5 miles around the Charlotte Motor Speedway. It's not quite the Coke 600. We've already had one of those on RaceSpotTV. If you want to go back and have a little watch of a full-length race. We're going for just a quarter of that here tonight, though. Well, that math doesn't quite add up, does it?
It doesn't, but I appreciate the effort. I would say more 40%, something like that.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, you know, 150 laps is where we're going to go through tonight, and once we're on lap 1, Trent Dinkel's going to be champion. He's got a big advantage of 43 points over Abner Acosta, his private label Team Hype teammate. And the way it works here, you get 1 drop week over the course of a 9-race season. You can't drop the last race of the year, though, so what they get from this one is going to be where they continue on. You get points for taking the green flag. As long as Trent starts, he's going to get at minimum 32 points. Not a big enough advantage or big enough swing can happen for Abner to become champion. Look at the team standings here as well. Private label Team Hype obviously got 1 and 2 in the standings. Might have had 1, 2, and 3 if James O'Brien, their other teammate, was at a couple more races this year. He's had some really, really solid runs over the course of the schedule. Pioneer Racing, it looks solidified P1, P2 for those top 2. But we do have a pretty close battle for the last team on the podium in the team standings.
Yeah, we certainly do. And that's going to be a little bit of our focus here tonight, because at the top of the standings, in both the drivers and the teams, as you mentioned, we have pretty settled situations.
Absolutely, and we're going to take this time to tell you all who we're thankful for, and this coverage is brought to you by Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. Racebox Sim Racing. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit RaceBoxSimRacing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision 5 coupon code. The Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Muradness. Muradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. And finally, Advanced Motorsports. Get ready to learn to be fast. Fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on their socials to become a better driver. Well, qualifying is about wrapped up here. Not many are on track. It's a good time to talk about the drivers that are not allowed to qualify for this race, and I'll also talk about why that is probably a good thing for some of these if they're serving it here, because only 9 drivers currently have set times. 12 drivers are set to participate in this final race tonight. Maverick Davis is actually one of those drivers that was not allowed to qualify for this race, so that's going to be another penalty that he'll have to take into next year, and based on this qualifying performance, not one that he is... It's not a good one to kind of take a double penalty on.
No, if you're going to break the rules, you might as well be a bit quicker when you do it. But I think he might have actually exhausted his... Yeah, he has already exhausted his 2 laps anyway, so it doesn't actually matter how quickly he's going at the moment. But nevertheless, 8th place is not a good starting place for him, and he'll get a double penalty, I'd imagine, for the start of next season, which is not good news. We do, however, have Jeff Chandler down at the back at the moment. He could have qualified if he wanted to, but clearly didn't. So... there we go. We've got one person who should be at the back who isn't, and one who not necessarily should be and is.
Absolutely. Abner Acosta will get pole position, so a good final way to cap off the start of the final race, I should say, of this season for him with the pole by 22 thousandths of a second over Nick Gowen from Gowen Racing. Wonder where the team and last name comes from. Blue Christian P3, while Trent Dinkle will be alongside him on the outside of row 2. Pat Harvey, Marshall Harris, your top half of the field, with Tommy Brandon, Maverick Davis, and Jose Medina putting lap times in to qualify in the top 9. Jeff Chandler will start 10th, no qualifying time set. Waldo Walden and Chad Kibbe will start 11th and 12th. That is your 12-car field for 150 laps here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Chad Kibbe actually was not allowed to qualify in this race, so good on him. He's not going to get any kind of double penalty from this one. Same with Waldo Walden, and because he's not racing in this race, it's going to expire that did not, or not allowed to qualify mark that Mark Kalin, Eric Hag is having, I believe. That might not be the case. We'll have to double check from race control and how they like to hand out non-qualifying, things like that. I can't think of the words. It's okay. 89 degrees Fahrenheit is the track temperature. It's pretty cool. We're going to race under the lights. It's going to get to that way at some point in the race with the lights of Charlotte Motor Speedway about to be turned on May 25th. That is yesterday's date, 7:21 p.m. This 1.5 mile racetrack provides some really good racing. It's not always, the same type of racing on what they call the cookie cutters, the 1.5 tracks of NASCAR. And Charlotte definitely is a little bit more difficult at points because it is a bit more narrow, but that does not mean it's one lane, one groove. You can run the outside, you can run the middle, you can run the low line with varying points of success here, Ewan.
Yeah, certainly. It's not even as wide as last week at North Wilkesboro, where we saw really lots of different lines, lots of interest, people down on the apron and so on. That's not going to happen. But we are going to see some different lines. But it is one of those circuits that is slightly narrower, but plenty of banking around here, so keep speeds quite high at 24 degrees in the turns, 5 degrees on this back straight here. They're heading down towards those final couple of corners. So pretty steep round here. It's 225 miles around here, by the way. That's not a quarter, as I said earlier on. I was getting the miles and the laps confused, so that's good. But as you say, it's about 40% of the Coke 600, which is going on here today. But a relatively long race, actually. Timing software predicting that it will take 1 hour 13, and that's even if it stays green. I actually think it will be longer than that, even if it stays green. So not many cautions tonight will take us to the 90-minute limit.
Absolutely will do that as the cars are finishing up their pace lap. The pace car goes down pit road. Abner Acosta will lead the field to green flag racing here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. 1 round to go. Nick Gowen, Abner Acosta side by side. Gowen is going to lead lap 1. That's a bonus point for him by the time things are all said and done on this season. That's pretty important, I'd say, for a lot of these drivers in this field. Gowen comes into it 11th in the standings. It's not much of a gap between he, Jake Mackey, Greg Carr. He's going to absolutely get into 11th. He might even jump into 10th from his 11th place spot, because Mark Kalin, of course, is not in the race tonight.
Yep, so it probably will do, bonus points or not, but it's side by side for the lead. Abner Acosta on the low side, trying to hold on to the position, and it's too wide indeed for 2 rows here. Trent Dinkle on the lower side with Marshall Harris trying to make some moves on the outside.
Look at that big run down the inside. Oh, just starting to blend upwards a little bit was Lou Christian on Trent Dinkle. He had to take his foot off the throttle just a tad. Marshall Harris going for it. It's really easy to burn the tires off, especially in sunny conditions. Of course, the track is not too hot. It's really not hot at all. 89 degrees at the start here. It's only going to go down from this point on. But you can find the tire degradation to be quite problematic over the course of this 150-lap race, which is probably going to see a 2 or maybe 3-stop strategy.
Yeah, let's see on just what we get here tonight when we get to it over the course of pit stops. I'm slightly worried about the speed at which Marshall Harris has leapt out the box here, to be honest with you, at the start of this race, flying through the field, passing cars left and right. Well, how good is that really if his tyres are only going to fall off in a couple of laps' time? I mean, it's not a great thing, to be honest. So let's see. I think that Harris is going to have to be careful about that, because surely the speed he's got over everyone else is not natural at the moment.
Yeah, that is absolutely a thing to worry about. I know some drivers almost feel like it's more important. It's better to just start to run away at the beginning when the tires are freshest, and then everything else you'll just deal with at the end, because you never know, right? If you're in P1, even if you're using a lot more of the rubber up, you're still leading laps. You're still in position to take advantage of a caution that could happen in the field. Now, I don't necessarily think there's going to be many, if any, wrecks, big ones at least, in this race tonight. They will be side by side a lot of the race, but I think right now it's just chilling around each other, trying not to burn up the tires. I mean, that gap is huge for Marshall. I don't necessarily think it's the worst idea, but he is committing to it right off the bat.
Yeah, I don't... It's very much a case of he's thinking about exactly what he needs to do and wants to do right now, rather than thinking about it later. I mean, that's fair enough at the moment, but it could come back to bite him a little bit later on in the race. So he's got over 2 seconds at the moment. The rest of the field running in a line. Not only are they saving tyres, of course, they're going to be saving a bit of fuel with one another as well. They're in one big group, almost super speedway style. So a bit concerning, really, for Marshall Harris. But for the moment, it's working out.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a bit of fuel saving going on for all these drivers here. And from Marshall Harris to Nick Gowen, it's 2.6 seconds, but from Gowen to the back of the field, it's only 1.5 seconds. So just to kind of see how that situation goes. Just interesting, right? How these drivers are all employing pretty much the same strategy. Look at all the off-throttle time that Trent has going into turn 3. If we want to talk about tire saving, if we want to talk about fuel saving, I don't think there's many better at it than Trent Dinkle. He's always been fantastic at it. Tommy Brandon just made the move on Nick Gowen to get into second place. I'll tell you what, though, Marshall 3.2 seconds ahead. Even if you start to lose a few tenths per lap, that's still a sizable advantage, and we'll see how it plays out for him.
Yeah, we certainly will. I mean, interesting there on board with Trent Dinkle as well, by the way, that he wasn't grabbing fourth gear, instead just keeping it in fifth. Now, I'm not sure if that's normal around this circuit, because that's seldom normal, actually, these days, to just stay in one gear for the entire race, other than on the super speedways. But he may well just be deciding to do that, to just keep the revs low in fifth and save a bit of fuel in that sense as well. If he can just save a bit of fuel, then he can either shorten his pit stop whenever we get one under a caution, or indeed he can go a bit further into this green flag run should we get a long one.
I think Tommy Brandon's also thinking the same thing. Might as well go, right? Drivers are just chilling in behind, and if that gap, right, between Brandon and Harris, 3.2 seconds, but I'm really looking at, more importantly, the one between Harris and Gowen, because that's where the rest of the field is, and that's where the drivers you typically see up front week in, week out will be. And speaking about drivers up through the field, an important driver scheme, I should say, is Jeff Chandler, running right now in 10th place in that 31 Ford Mustang. He's actually running a tribute scheme to Navy Chief Petty Officer Doyle Lawrence Sr. Riding on the car with him tonight to pretty cool what they do here during Memorial Day weekend racing in the NASCAR Cup, NASCAR Xfinity, and NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series races in the real world and real life racing at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Very patriotic, you can say, is the term. And all the paint schemes tonight, all the drivers do have military figures, people who have served in multiple branches of the military riding on board with them. And pretty cool that Jeff Chandler, now just dropped to 11th, has the name of Lawrence Sr. on there.
Yep, just embedded in the back of the pack at the moment. Yeah, I think you're right, by the way. Tommy Brandon seems to be getting away in second place in a similar way to Marshall Harris, although maybe with less extravagance in the sense that he's only a second and a bit away, whereas Marshall Harris is getting up to 1/6 of a lap ahead of the rest of the field at the moment. It is starting to split apart a little bit as well here, led by Nicholas Goen. It seems that maybe there's some gaps starting to form a little bit further on backwards. Here goes Abner Acosta down the inside into turn 3 and 4. It looks like he wants to go to the front of this group.
Yeah, it looks like he's getting a little bit impatient with all the saving that's going on right now, and I think we're also kind of seeing where these drivers' heads are at when it comes to specific strategies, right? How much they want to save, how much they want to go for it, when they're going to come into the pits. And we already saw that off-throttle time when we rode on board with Trent Dinkle just around 7 laps ago. And to me, that indicates wanting to make it a 2-stop race. I don't think you're going to be able to make it into a 1-stopper if you pit at the halfway point, 75 laps. That's a large amount of mileage unless you're saving from the get-go, which I don't know if you're going to be able to save 112 miles and 1 full fuel tank. I've seen it done. I just think it's too much.
Yeah. I'm waiting to see, first of all, just how interrupted this race is going to be with cautions, to be honest, before really thinking about that. And I wonder what these guys' plans are as well. Are they planning for an entirely green flag run today? Because there aren't quite as many drivers in the field. Does that mean that we get a longer green flag race here where longer runs will be rewarded, or will there be cautions, especially later on as we figure this one out? So we're not too far away from lap 30, and when we get towards lap 40-ish, then we'll really start to see if anyone's going for a 3-stop strategy, then they'll start to pit sort of between lap 35 and 40.
Yeah, I think that's certainly when we're going to start to see it. Maybe even if you're going with a 3-stop kind of call, then coming in, I've seen lap 35, lap 40 be a strategy call that some of these drivers would participate in. Again, I'm not sure exactly if that's the right move, but I have seen some races that have went that pathway when you do want to have a 3-stop kind of race, and I've been shocked that it worked out. But hey, there's only 12 drivers in the field tonight. You better try something different. And speaking about trying something different, now we're starting to see the effects of Marshall Harris just skedaddling away from everybody, coming back to bite him maybe just a little bit. He's running laps that are 0.3 slower than Go and Acosta, Dinkle, everybody else that we're currently seeing in this battle as we ride with Pat Harvey right here. We see him in his home. He does not have the goggles on that he usually has. That's questioning. I'm going to question him about that if we talk to him post-race, because that's disappointing.
It certainly does seem, by the way, that Marshall Harris is being caught, as you say, so that's no surprise, really. The fact that Tommy Brandon might have timed this quite well. A second ahead of the field, but not going crazy, and certainly reeling in Harris at the same rate. Meanwhile, it's side by side between Nicholas Goen and Abner Acosta. So they go side by side over the line for 3rd place. They've been battling for a little while now, these two.
Yeah, these two have been pretty fair, giving each other a lot of room. That upper middle groove is where Goen is finding the speed, just above the middle seam of 1 and 2. Let's see if he takes a different line in 3 and 4. A bit of a high arc, but he comes down to the low line. You can see how different those arcs are, those pathways through 3 and 4R between he and Abner Acosta, both running single file. And getting the best view of this is Trent Dinkle, who's just riding in behind. Nothing that he has to worry about. Is that a car up in the wall, or is that just a different line from Tommy Brandon?
Well, if it's a different line, then he's losing loads of time. I think he's been in the wall when he was in the previous lap as well, because he went from a second ahead of these guys to about 7 tenths. He's in the wall again.
He's trying to run that upper line to get maximum momentum and speed down the straightaway, but as you can tell, it's not working out well for him. He got up into the wall, and he almost did it again. There is that separation there. That's the line he wants to run. It's going to be a little bit longer on the the mileage running that top line. However, he doesn't necessarily have to worry too much about making the angle so acute as Marshall Harris. Remember, we were talking about the different strategies here. This is a strategy I did not see coming into fruition. A 3-stopper coming in at lap 24. This is interesting as we're watching Harris come into the pits here.
Is this the way to do it these days? You come down like that?
Nope.
I was going to say, that's not normal, is it?
He's going to lose so much time just from coming down the pits into 3. It's just interesting to me, actually. But we're back to live pictures here. Marshall Harris in the pits. That was, for his strategy, I don't know about that. I think he saw the writing on the wall and saw how quickly he burned off the tires. But hey, he led a good amount of laps there, and maybe if things fall the way he wants them to fall, he wins some extra bonus points for leading the most laps by the time this race ends. Although I don't think that's going to be what happens, as Brandon is really, really committed to that high line, and again, into the outside wall he goes, and he is losing time, hand and foot.
Yeah, he really is. Even when he's not hitting the wall, which is what's been happening quite a lot, he is still slower than the rest anyway, and they're flying through on his inside at the moment. Not really sure what his strategy is, to be honest, because he, first of all, went out into second place and was leading the rest of the group by a second at least. Now he's falling through the field again by taking an intentionally really high and dangerous and quite slow line. And, well, it's a bizarre strategy, but he's now battling down for 7th place with Maverick Davis.
It is nice to see these drivers, this pack of cars, so consistently together, as now Marshall Harris has left the building. Got a black flag for speeding down pit road, and yeah, he's gone. So that is 11 drivers still in the field right now. Hey, how about that? You blow by the rest of the field, you lead a few laps, and then you leave without further elaboration. I don't mind that move.
Yeah, maybe he was only going to be here for 25 laps, so just thought I'll have fun while I'm here. Excuse me, as Tommy Brander's in the wall again there. I wonder now whether he's at the back of the field, whether he'll just pull down low with everyone else. Now that Medina gets through. There you go, bit back to the middle again. So I don't know what his strategy is, but he is going backwards and forwards like nobody's business really. And so, well anyway, he's at the back of the group now. And at the front, still Nicholas Cohen, still holding off, not Abner Acosta, but this time Trent Dinkle.
Look at that. Trent Dinkle comes down to the inside. He wants to get into the lead of this race. It's go, go, go time, and he makes the move on go win to try and go win it himself on lap 30 of 150. He has not led a lap yet tonight. That's going to change here. Bonus point for Trent Dinkle, who already is mathematically confirmed in all but writing to be champion of this PRL season. And Trent Dinkle is one driver who I think if you see his name in a race, you're kind of frustrated or you're excited to test yourself against the best. But at that point, you've almost got to know that your chances of winning yourself has severely gone down.
You know that you're in a race when Trent Dinkle's in it, that's for sure. He's been imperious this season, really, and he's on his way to leading yet another race in this season. I just wonder whether he's sort of emptying the tank now, proverbially, of course, emptying the tyres out in the latter portion of this stint, because, as we've already talked about, if we were to see 3 stops here this evening from these guys, then they wouldn't be too far away from making their first pit stop now.
Yeah, they would not be far away at all. I think it's going to come around that lap 40, 45 mark, most likely. If you're going with a three-stop strategy, you do it probably around lap 40. If you're going with the two-stopper, you're going to try and split it up into thirds as equally as you can. So around lap 50 with some undercuts, overcuts, changing the game just a little bit. But they're definitely getting a little bit more racy as this run goes on. And Goen tried to slide up high. Dinkel shut the door, took his normal line, and Dinkel wants Goen to try and make a move down the inside. That's going to suffer, or make those tires suffer a little bit more to run lower and try and get the grip to make the move and keep the speed up. That's why Goen is sliding up, had to take his foot off the throttle, and that's why Dinkel wanted that outside line. Just easier to defend some moves like that as the runs progress here. So what's on stake? What's at stake for Trent Dinkel's legacy? Well, he currently he sits as the 6th highest driver in wins in PRL history with 33. He is 4 wins behind Karl Modolf, who's got 37 wins, all those wins coming in GT and prototype competition. But when we talk about the PRL Sunday night situation, well, I'll tell you what, he is very close to potentially tying the high mark for the most wins all time in PRL Cup. Trent's got 33, and of course, Richard Regan Jr. has 34. He almost could have taken it this year, too, individually, as a car goes up into the wall at the exit of 2. Dinkel could have absolutely taken it this year, except he did not have the best run at North Wilkesboro. He's been on a tear this season. It's just been unbelievable, Ewan. Yeah,
it really has. The fact that he's taken... well, at one stage, he was looking like he was going to win last week too, but we've only had, 17 races so far in 2024 in the Cup Series. We've seen 8 Trent Dinkel wins. That just gives you an idea as to how dominant he's been. That's, if he wins tonight, an exact 50% win record for 2024. Even if he doesn't win tonight, it'll be pretty close to 50. So it's a remarkable record, really, and no wonder that he's getting so close to not only beating seasonal records and taking seasonal championships, but also all-time records that he's now within reach of.
I mean, if he wins tonight, that's win 34. He'd be only 6 wins away from moving into a tie for 4th all-time in PRL wins across all series with David C. Holland. I mean... it would take a lot. It would take 7 wins in a 9-race schedule if he wins tonight, 8 wins if not, to move into a solo spot of 4th. But it's Trent Dinkel, and anybody else I'd say, yeah, there's no way. But it's Trent Dinkel. He is always there. He's inevitable, just as inevitable as Scott Dixon at the end of an IndyCar championship.
Well, to be fair, though, you talk about next season being possibly out of touch even for him. I mean, at the end of this year, not impossible at all, even for him. So don't forget, there are still half of the races in 2024 remaining, pretty much, more than half of them, to be honest. So there is still plenty of time in that respect for Trent Dinkel and plenty of other drivers as well to really ramp up the number of wins. Who knows what we're going to see throughout the rest of this year as we edge towards the playoffs. Next season's very much going to be about qualifying for the end of season.
It's just, I'll tell you what, Trent is just an absolute machine of a driver, but Abner Acosta also is right there alongside him when it comes to that, that machinery. Abner himself has 29 PRL Cup Series wins, and he is right there amongst the all-time greats in PRL history. He's got 77 wins, so he's second on the all-time list, and that comes from a lot of wins in not just one series, Cup wins. He's got Grand National and Truck Series wins. He's got 1 open wheel win, 15 GT wins. So he's got a ton of fame on his resume if he wants to talk about who's the best all-around driver in PRL.
Well, that is a real difficult discussion. It doesn't help that with so many disciplines, does it really, when we're trying to figure out who's best. It's almost like we should just call the winner of the All-Star event, which happens from time to time, or has done recently, that we should just call them the best, to be honest. Although it's a bit of a meme sometimes. Wasn't it on the figure of 8 track once?
I think that's the best at the figure 8 racing. Sometimes you got to be in the right position, right? When you have the chance to say you're the best at anything, and even if it's a figure 8 track, when there's a lot of mayhem and chaos that happens, you still have to remember it's still a race. You're still turning left or right or whatever to try and make moves happen. You're also just trying to avoid getting T-boned at 80 miles per hour with a jump in the middle. Oh, I do love watching some figure 8 fun races as Chad Kibbe looks to make a move down the inside of Waldo Walden, 2 drivers that did not make any qualifying time. But again, it doesn't really matter when it's a 12-car field and there's only 11 drivers in it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And the 11th of them, by the way, Tommy Brandon, I'm surprised hasn't come into the pit lane yet, because he's clearly struggling a lot on tyres. So's Medina, actually, in the 24 car. Surprised they haven't gone for the 3-stop strategy, because clearly saving the tyres and trying to make them last as long as everybody else is clearly managing is not serving them very well at the moment. The drop-off isn't too severe around here. At worst, Waldo Walden is going the slowest compared to his best lap time, at least he did in that previous lap time. 1.9 down, but that's like nowhere near the average. The average is about a second, maybe just over a second of drop-off, so that's not a lot at all, really. However, Tommy Brandon and Jose Medina could very much gain from that if they had the idea, anyway, of pitting about 5 laps ago.
Yeah, and I'm actually surprised that Tommy hasn't pitted either, but I also will say this is a really good visual of what happens when you burn too much of the rubber up way too quickly. There's a reason why the entire pack, the primary pack, it was running the speeds they were running. It's no surprise that Marshall Harris lost all that time, decided to leave the race, and Tommy Brandon is continuing to lose time. The gains from running really fast and running really hard at the beginning are not as fruitful as the losses you have to incur after it's all said and done over the course of this stint. Good side-by-side battling here. 2 drivers by 2 drivers. Chad Kibbe, Maverick Davis trying to go way up the wall here. Nothing going on for him.
Nope, not on that occasion. But there'll be some slipstream here for... I think it's Jeff Chandler, isn't it? Or Maverick... no, it's Maverick Davis. The number colours are not quite matching up with the car colours, but nor do they normally, so that's fine. Just a bit of racing between the two of them. As finally Tommy Brandon does come in as the first driver in. Luke Christian as well, by the looks of things. Well, that looked quite late to me.
All right, Lou Christian coming down pit road, and I feel like for Lou, this is going to be a bit of an undercut here. I think he has committed himself to this 2-stop race, splitting it into thirds. Everybody else is probably going to come between now to lap 52, lap 53. I would assume that would be the case. It's a big undercut, and one that could work out in Christian's favor. He's going to start to gain a good amount of time. The drop-off right now, the fall-off's about a second, and that's because of the cooler temperatures. It could be up to 2 seconds under the heat of the sun, but it's definitely helping that degradation, that the undercut is not going to be as massive of a gap, of a change, but it is going to be big as Acosta and Dinkle battle for first. 2 teammates, 2 championship rivals, year in, year out, season in, season out, and these 2, again, the class of the field right here.
They are proving that once again, really, even after having a slow start by their own standards, i.e. not leading. They are leading now and only battling for the lead between themselves. Trent Dinkle holding that higher line, and it's making it pretty difficult for anybody to come through on the inside. Nicholas Goen tried to do it earlier on, couldn't manage it. In fact, Goen was the first to employ that strategy earlier on in the race, actually, defending the lead in that manner. But now he's had that used on him, and he couldn't get through as the guys behind come into the pit lane now that we've hit 1/3 distance.
More pit stops for sure coming with Kibbe and the 67. Pat Harvey coming down pit road. Waldo Walden followed as well. So half the field has come into the pits, or I should say at least one half of the field that are still in this race have come into the pits to get 4 tires, some new Sunoco fuel, and get back on their way. We'll see as this race goes on where that big undercut is going to help out, who's going to help out. You see Luke Christian, right, in P10. We'll see how far ahead he gets of these drivers who just went in the pits. He just passed Waldo Walden and most likely going to pass Kibbe and Harvey here as well as this battle for 4th between Maverick Davis and Jeff Chandler continues on. Got to wonder if you can keep out front or keep within a distance once pit cycle is all done and do the overcut. I think that's always preferred. Because then it gets easier. You kind of take the hard part on now, and I think that's what Dinkel and Acosta are doing with this gap they already have.
Well, yes, but I think there's a high chance here that the two of them end up not in the lead in a minute. But maybe that's fine with them. They just rather extend the race out a little bit longer. They're surely not going to 75 laps, I would have thought. But, I mean, nothing's particularly out of the question, I suppose. We'll wait and see, because we do still have half the field running out there, almost as if we are going to get a split strategy here today.
There's a replay of Tommy Brandon. Oh, that's a moment. Great save right there. He had to go through the grass a little bit and got a 1x from going through the grass, but there are some very heinous bumps on the exit of pit road. Luke Christian, here's another replay of him coming out of the pits. That's the better way to do it, at least on pit entry. We'll see if there's any mistake or issue. No, just that's two differences in how to get out of pit road. One where you deal with the bumps, but kind of go away from them before blending up, and there's another where you take the bumps right on, but can't get your foot in the throttle because you'll slide big time.
Speaking of sliding, well, it maybe wasn't sliding, but it was certainly speeding for Jose Medina. 57 miles an hour on entry, I'm afraid. Maybe he was sliding the tyres, trying to get down to speed, but couldn't quite do it. And so will be definitively 11th, even though he was running pretty much towards the back anyway. He will certainly be at the back now.
Absolutely. Nick Gowen coming in at the end of lap 55. So Dinkel, Acosta, Davis, the only 3 drivers yet to come into the pits, which doesn't necessarily surprise me. I'd say Maverick has always got that 1-lap speed. We'll see if he's able to put on a complete race. Has not had the 1-lap speed in this event so far through practice and qualifying and in the race. So going a little bit off strategy here. He'll take the overcut, go down pit road now. And if you're the leaders in Trent Dinkel and Abner Acosta, you're just having a grand old time. You're still running some pretty solid laps. You're still saving tires, and you're battling for first. Does Trent come into pit road now? Not slowing down at all. Until he does. Wow, that's a very late entrance into pit road.
Does he get it slowed down in time? Oh, locks the brakes. Did he make it down to pit lane speed? Well, it's difficult to tell.
We'll figure it out. Jose Medina got speeding on entry for 57 miles per hour. So if that is something he gets nabbed for, we're hearing that there's no flags yet. So looks like Trent Dinkel was able to get that car slowed down enough. That's pretty impressive because that is something that did not look possible. Abner Acosta came in 1 lap later and locked up the brakes again, coming into pit road at the end of lap 58 for him. He'll still have the lead of this race for the time being. Trent Dinkel provisionally will come out in front, it looks like, of Luke Christian. They're going to be very close as Dinkel's getting up to speed. Christian will pass as well as Harvey. But, Trent's got tires that are 8 laps faster, 8 laps fresher than some of these guys.
Yeah, he won't run them over entirely or not completely, but later on in the stint, he will be very thankful for this. I think Abner Acosta, though, is going to come out in 5th place, maybe worse, actually. You'd think Trent Dinkel will get back through again. There is the yellow car down low, blending in, and Trent Dinkel goes flying on past. Abner Acosta out, and it will be worse off, actually, than Trent Dinkel, quite a lot worse off. Through goes Walden and Nicholas Gowen as well, who's lost out quite a lot in that cycle.
Yeah, he's certainly lost out big time here as we're inching ourselves closer and closer to the halfway point of this race. Estimated another 47 or so minutes left in the running here. At least that's by my calculations. Not always Not always do I provide great calculations on the fly. Math.
Oh, indeed, not on the fly.
Fair. Here's a scare for Maverick Davis coming out of pit road.
See what happens here. Can't really see, to be honest. Oh, there we go. You see it now. I think he just clipped the
apron.
the actual banking there.
Oh,
and
yeah, that's, yep.
Oh, just got outside the cone. Yeah, just when you drift up ever so slightly, you can get the right side tyres up above, the blue line. And you see how it is meant to be done here from Acosta, getting up to speed nicely over the bumps, etc. If you just get your right side tyres up on the banking, because of the actual change in the banking there from pretty much nothing down on the apron to 24 degrees, as we talked about earlier, up on the banking, it's very severe and you will spin. Luckily, we've evaded a caution again there with Maverick Davis.
Absolutely did. Nonetheless, if there was a caution at any point here, Jose Medina would get the free pass, and from that point on, everyone would be back onto the lead lap as Trent Dinkle gets a great run on the 67, but Pat Harvey kind of shut the door on the inside, so Dinkle's going to have to go around the outside. I don't think he minds that too much.
Absolutely not. He was having great success up there earlier on defending his lead. Now he's going to try and use it to take second and maybe first too. Lou Christian realises this, but I think wants to stay on the inside. Christian can't do that, and now he's going to have to go up to the uncomfortable high side as Trent Dinkle tries to take the lead.
It's not really going to be that much of a try. He's going to take the lead here. Blows by Lou Christian, who is on the longest stint of anybody up here between the competitors. He's on 15, now 16 lap old tires. Trent Dinkle has tires that are 10 laps fresher than his, so I think Lou's going to start to lose some time here, and that was not intentional until it was, by the way.
All mapped out, that one. I'm sure there's some more name puns that we can get in before the end of the day, but
it certainly feels like this is the kind of race where the puns are going to be flowing.
Yeah, maybe. We're not even halfway through just yet, although it is flying by, to be honest. The pace of the race is very high, actually, compared to what you might expect, especially from what I saw in the opening laps of the race, actually. A lot of tyre saving, a lot of fuel saving, and you'd be forgiven for thinking, goodness me, this race is not going to be done at a particularly searing pace. But as soon as we got close to those pit stops, as soon as we got Marshall Harris out front, got Tommy Brandon out front as well, the pace of the race and the urgency, and everybody just all of a sudden looked like they did actually want to win the race in the end. And so now we really do have the speed up, and it feels like we got a bit of a race on now.
A bit of a race for sure, or a bit of management by all the drivers involved. We saw how far Trent and Abner were able to bring their cars out in front. Abner with an overcut you saw at the end there, so he's got the freshest tires of anybody in the field. However, you saw how massive that change in lap time was for Abner. He's going to start to catch up over the course of this run, but there is a 2nd and 7/10 separation between he and Trent Dinkle just from Abner going in one lap later. They were running side by side the entirety of that first stint.
Yeah, pretty much. It just feels a little bit like we've returned to that early point in the race again where we're running single file all over again. And in fact, the front two groups look like they're about to get connected here. The Nicholas Goen led second group with Abner Acosta, Jeff Chandler and Waldo Warden involved. Looks like we're about to make a front group of 8, although Trent Dinkle making a bit of a run for it at the front.
They're going to try and do what they can do. I just feel like on raw speed and green flag pit strategy, the ball is in the court of the driver of the number 9 Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 for private label team Hype in Trent Dinkle. Abner Acosta got the pole for this race, but right now he's really sitting back in traffic, a 1.5 seconds off the lead of it. He could, I feel like, theoretically blow by some of these drivers with the tires that he's got, so I wonder if he's just sitting back for some reason that I'm unaware of yet.
Yeah, I think he's just ready to unleash a little bit later on. Don't forget that he did have a pretty long first stint, so he can use these last two to shorten up a little bit and really push on later on. But while there's drivers going side by side in front of him, there's no point in him pushing on. He'll just get caught up in traffic again. As round the outside there goes Nicholas Going. He's really being aggressive here.
Man, there was a lot of blocking, I feel like, throughout. Oh, Gowen gets a little bit loosey-goosey as he clips the apron. We're talking about clipping the banking when you're trying to get out of pit road. How about clipping the apron when you're running at full speed? That shot him up the track. He was able to save it and still keep his foot in the throttle, keep the speed up, and take away the position. He's into second now.
I think Abner Acosta is going to try and use this to go for himself, although he's just cut up in front of Chad Kibbe there, and he didn't necessarily want to do that. Now he's up on the high side of Lou Christian, who's pinned down low but looks uncomfortable down there. Here goes Chad Kibbe on the outside as well.
Yeah, everyone is starting to try and get moves done. The 67 is right now hemorrhaging some speed and positions. 21 lap old tires. He's trying to hold off drivers who have a few lap fresher tires. Going 16-lap stint, at Costa 13-lap stint. I mean, all of them are trying to just make sure that they can save their equipment as best they can. But when there is some considerable time that they could lose, it's all about race management, right? They see the gap that Trent Dinkle has started to have. Trent could put on the afterburners, but he doesn't want to do what Marshall Harris did, and I don't think anyone ever thought. You don't have to be the fastest to win the race when you're in first. You just got to be the slowest while still being in first.
Yeah, certainly, and I think that's not going to be in all the minds of the drivers at the moment. As you say, everyone will want to protect their stuff for the moment, but equally you don't want to let Trent Dinkle get away. And I think at the moment, actually, Dinkle's trying to deliver the hammer blow for this race already, actually. I know we're only just on halfway, but if he gets a margin that's going to be difficult for everyone else to close, especially in a comfortable tyre situation, which is what he's in, then it could be race over from pretty quickly. So at the moment, Nicholas Gowen's leading the charge to try and catch Trent Dinkle because he knows just how important this is.
He absolutely knows that. Jeff Chandler currently running in 6th. He's in a spot where he can make up some times and get some positions gained here, at least maybe in a 4th place for him. He's got fresher tires than both Chad Kibbe and Pat Harvey right now as we go just about past the halfway point of this race. And man, it really is flying by at this point.
Yep, about halfway now. There's the movers and shakers. Been plenty going on in this race so far, it's fair to say, but still plenty more to happen. The top 8 covered by just 3.5 seconds. It's fair to say that with Jose Medina off the lead lap, Tommy Brandon 13.5 seconds back, and Maverick Davis 10 seconds back. Those guys are probably out the running, but for the rest of the top 8, they'll all feel that they have the car underneath them to win. And under what circumstances that might require, that's a different conversation. But they will all feel that there are circumstances in which they can win today.
There are certainly circumstances that I can see other drivers winning this race, but that would require a caution within the last 10 laps and a major catastrophic mistake from Trent Dinkle. And I'm not trying to be doom and gloom, but we've seen this story before, right? Oh, it's Pat Harvey got very loose there on corner exit. He was trying to get that car rotated. It was actually going a little bit tight, but then it just kind of snapped around from behind him. Again, keeping his foot in the throttle and keeping this fight for position up with Jeff Chandler, who's trying to get into 4th here. Yep,
alongside, and surely he's got to make this mistake pay in some way. If he wants to make his way through, he's not going to get a better chance than this, though he is on the low side. Traditionally not a great successful place for people in this race. Jeff Chandler has made it work, so he's through on the back straight on Pat Harvey, and he did indeed make that mistake count.
Good move from Jeff Chandler, who has been putting in some solid work in this race tonight. He came in around the same exact lap that Nick Gowen came down at. Gowen actually was a lap later. Chandler's got 4 lap fresher tires than Harvey, then Chad Kibbe, 7 lap fresher tires than Lou Christian. I got to be honest, doing just a really solid job of managing his race, and I'd say P4 is definitely within the cards for him in this one. I'd say he's got the 4th fastest car and the 4th best strategy right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see how it pans out over the course of the last 70 laps, because I still feel there's a lot to change in this race, to be honest. We saw how much the speed changed and these cars changed behaviour over the course of the first 50 laps. I mean, eventually we saw a front 3 getting away. Now that seems to be happening earlier now, as a front 3 is establishing itself already, but things could change a little bit later down the line. We were a bit sceptical about those that raced out to the front in the first stint because they ran out of tyres. Are the current front 3 going to run out of tyres as well towards the end of this stint?
Maverick Davis has retired from this race, so anyone still running will finish in the top 10. Go away to stat pad a little bit. I wouldn't mind that. You know, I've won a race that was broadcast on RaceSpotTV once, and I think there were 14 cars in the field, 15 at Talladega. They went green the whole way, and I made a good stop and won by a few thousandths of a second. And it was Talladega, and it was it was a 14-car field. So I still got to win. That's all that matters, right?
I mean, it absolutely counts. Yeah, think about the amount of officials you've done, by the way, with 14 or even less. I mean, it's certainly early on in your iRacing career. These kind of sizes of fields are absolutely what goes on again and again. And when you're early on in iRacing, you count it as a win, so why not count it as one now?
No, that's fair. You know, I've been in iRacing on and off around, I would say, 4 or 5 years, sim racing my whole life, but on iRacing specifically, not until probably around 2020, the fun COVID boom. That was horrible, but that was around when I really started to get involved in iRacing itself. And I've only done like 120 official races, something like that. So not too many over the course of 4 or 5 years, but got a couple wins, and I can run in leagues with some of the top guys. So that's my pat on the back kind of moment for me.
I can't do that on iRacing. I used to be able to semi keep up on the Formula 1 games, but that was a long time ago. I've done about 1 race in the last year, and it was 24 hours of Spa. So there you go. That's my lack of racing history in the recent past.
Well, you also know more of the future, as it's Monday for you right now, as Jack Kibbe makes a move on Pat Harvey, who's ailing right now.
Yeah, battle for 5th place. It does feel like the field getting more spread apart now. The idea that maybe any of the top 8 could win might still ring true, but it will require a late caution, as you said. It's very much showing itself to be the top 3 that are the real class of the field in terms of speed.
You know, Dinkel and Acosta, that gap between them up for 1st and 2nd has not really fluctuated over the course of this run, over the course of the last 30 or so laps. Acosta's kept it relatively at that same pace as Dinkel, so I think the biggest thing was just where they came out in terms of traffic. It just worked out perfectly for Trent right there because of the undercut. That was a big visual, the undercut versus the overcut. You lose like a second and 0.2 per lap, I'd say, when you do at the end of a run an undercut at the end of a 50. For them, it was a 56-lap stint. So that's exactly where we are in this race right now. That's the difference between those two.
Yeah, and I think these guys are going to use that as sort of to their advantage, sorry, Abner Acosta, not all of them. Abner Acosta especially is going to use that to his advantage because he went quite long, and indeed longer in that first stint as you were talking about. So what that means is Acosta can burn through his tyres in this middle part of the race a bit quicker, that he'll hopefully use those tyres to close up to Trent Dinkel, which is exactly what he's doing right now, and that gap is coming down now. And when those tyres begin to fall away, he'll know that he can come into the pit lane because we're already not that far away from lap 100, which is what you need to split this race into thirds. But because they pitted so late the first time round, Acosta doesn't really have to hit that mark at all. He can really use up those tyres for as long as possible, then come in, and even with 1 lap ahead of Trent Dinkel on an undercut, he can gain some time, as Dinkel just demonstrated doing that the other way around.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be going a little bit more into Abner's favor as this run goes on, but not by much. We're not talking tenths, we're talking hundredths, just because his tires are a lap fresher than Dinkel's. It's not that much with the track conditions that they currently are. But you're at the point now where if you come into the pits, you are good to go the rest of the race, and we will start to see that pit cycle happening again within the next 10 laps. Most of the rest of the field are going to come in by probably lap 105, 110 would be the last moment I'd see any of these drivers come in, and maybe that's Dinkel and Acosta.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. Not entirely sure who's going to blink first here. Well, I'll say that we've already seen an early stop. Unfortunately, it was Maverick Davis retiring his car, so we are waiting for, I guess, the first real stops of this second round, if you want to put it like that. But Acosta certainly using up those tyres, in my opinion, to get that little bit closer. 1.1 seconds behind Trent Dinkel now, and so he is using those. Well, as you say, he's not gaining at all really from having fresher tyres. He is gaining from the fact that he's using up his tyres, whereas Trent Dinkel is unlikely to be using them quite in the same way, because he's in the lead after all.
I'll tell you what, Tommy Brandon and Jose Medina are certainly having themselves a boring race right now. And Luke Christian, after going off strategy in this one, in the 21 machine, remember he came down, I'd say 3 laps earlier than the rest of the field's pit cycling started. And he's really suffering for that. It's a couple seconds off the pace from Waldo Walden and Pat Harvey, his teammate. So I wonder how much that impacts their decision-making for this next pit stop cycle when they come down into the pits. If they wait a little bit, I think everyone assumes that we're going to have a clean and green run to the end from this point. Obviously, that's not necessarily, obviously 100% certain, but I think that's what they're thinking as we get a look at their pit stop times. Brandon also had a really long stop, so that was not a good situation for him. When you're good, you're good, and Trent Dinkel had the fastest stop by far. That's he's got to be thanking his virtual pit crew for that one.
Well, that would have helped his gap as well. We're talking a lot and giving a lot of credit to the undercut, but actually half a second of that will have come in the pit lane. We don't know their lane. Well, I can find their lane time actually. I had to stop being lazy. His lane time actually was longer than Abner Acosta's, so actually it might not quite look as advantageous maybe as that graphic would suggest for Trent Dinkel. So maybe we can give as much credit to the undercut as we were. Not entirely sure, but I think we're going to get another demonstration of the undercut in about 5 laps or so. We can't be too far away from seeing the first pit stops of this second cycle. Although having said that, nobody really came in before lap 50 beforehand. Only Luke Christian and Tommy Brandon really came in before lap 50.
So 55 laps to go when the line is crossed by Trent Dinkel. There you go, lap 96 of 150. 10 drivers still in this race right now. Davis and Harris are out of it at the time of talking about it. If we do get those green stop cycles starting very soon, and we've got Abner catching, by the way, Trent Dinkel a little bit. Last lap times have been around a tenth and a half quicker consistently over the last 5 laps between Dinkel and Acosta. I feel like Acosta is definitely going to get closer before this run is over. Also has more of a benefit of the draft here. Dirty Air is not as much of an effect because of where he is running, but we'll definitely get some help with the slipstream as that run down the backstretch is big. So they're almost back at even playing fields now. The question is, where do you plan it? Where do you time it so you don't come back out in traffic like Acosta did the first time?
Well, I think that's going to be very difficult to avoid, actually, with the way that the field is spread out now. Jose Medina's a lap down. Tommy Brandon's not far from a lap down. Pat Harvey's in the pit lane, so he'll be all over the place as well. The rest of the groups, nobody else is fighting, really. So I think it's pretty unavoidable. What you're going to have to do, I think, is just take your medicine, maybe just hope that you're not going to be in traffic, to be honest, because it's not like it's difficult to overtake. It's not like a road course where you really could get caught behind someone and lose a lot of time as a result.
Pat Harvey comes down into pit road. With that being said, by the way, Harvey was on a 47-lap stint, so that's actually a little bit earlier than I would have thought for him to come down into the pits, especially seeing how it worked for Lou Christian, who came into the pits as well with him. So two teammates trying to go on the same strategy for the final run of the race and work together a little bit. Not the worst move.
Careful on that blue line. Got very close there to getting up onto the high banks and spinning around again, but well, not again, but we very nearly saw it from a couple of drivers first time round. So the gap very much closing now. Lap 100 about to be completed, and I mean, look, they're going to be in traffic anyway, so whether they pit or not. So I mean, it doesn't really matter, in my opinion, whether there's traffic when you come out or not. But I'd be surprised if Abner Acosta lets this opportunity slip, in a sense of either following Trent Dinkle down onto pit lane or indeed going after him, which I think would be a real disaster.
This is not helping any situation with them catching up to some lap traffic in the form of Tommy Brandon and the 24. I should say is that the 24 of Jose Medina?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Again, I was doing what you were doing, Ewan, and looking at the numbers on the ticker and saying that's not a yellow number, but that's okay. It's a chrome number. Chrome numbers, I like him and I hate him. Actually, here's something interesting, Ewan. There are a lot of rules and regulations in NASCAR about what color numbers you can have on the car and wear in the car. You can't have clashing a lot of the time, so it can't really blend in so much. That 5 is okay, but maybe not on top of the roof. Would that yellow 5 be okay? Because it's hard to see compared to the rest of the car. That dark 11 right there, I'm not sure if that would be okay. It's kind of up to NASCAR to make calls and decisions like that.
Fashion police is what I call them. They have a department of
that's
fashion.
Fair. That's very fair, actually. I've been I've been hoping that Shane Van Gisbergen decides to call the liveries and go into the paddock and go down pit lane instead of paint schemes and garage and pit road. It's more fun to call NASCAR terminology with more, open wheel or GT, sports car, anything other than the NASCAR words for it.
Yeah. On board with Abner Acosta here on the way into turn 3 and 4. Are they going to be in? No. Continuing on. A big slide for Trent Dinkle off of 4 there.
This is such a unique battle between two drivers that are so equally matched. But I will say, Abner has done an admirable job of cutting down that 1.5-second gap. But you saw how hard he had to work for that over the course of this entire second stint. That was a lot of hard work to catch up. And now that he is caught up, does he decide to come into the pits soon, or does he still try and fight for the move, or just stay out as long as they can go?
Well, they'll be able to get into the mid-60s, you would have thought, on fuel. So
absolutely,
that takes them another 20 laps, nearly.
You still lose more time than you'd gain, I think, from staying out extra laps.
Yeah, I think so. But, just in case they want to run the tanks absolutely dry, then they can do. They're not even at 50 laps yet, so there's still plenty of life left in these tyres, you would have thought as well. Though I do feel like the pace of the race in this middle stint has been slightly higher and they've been pushing a little bit more. Yeah,
these two are giving us quite the show right now. And as this race continues to go on, the last pit stop is going to be so utterly important to see where the rest of this race will go. If there's another 1-second gap, that could be even worse for these drivers, or for Abner Acosta if he's chasing, because there's going to be less time to try and make that gap up. You saw how hard it was for him to reconvene and catch back up to him and potentially make the move. They almost come together into one, and now they're side by side. This is some good fighting right here.
Great fighting between the two of them, but Acosta's going to find it difficult on the low side. Trent Dinkle through the middle has got that line absolutely hooked up. And he's very, very difficult to pass once he's up there. Now closer to the wall this time. Maybe a bit too wide from Trent Dinkle, the champion in waiting. But Acosta can't slide up in front of him, and they'll remain side by side over the line.
This is some good racing action right here. Trent Dinkle, I think, saved his equipment for this moment exactly. But Abner Acosta still has a bit of an edge in speed. Trent likes that outside line, especially when fighting on worn tires. And they're still going to be neck and neck heading into 3. I don't see any of these two with having a clear advantage. Maybe the momentum now is into Dinkle's hands.
Well, he's always going to have the momentum on the outside. And he seems to be enjoying it up there, so he'll remain up there for as long as it's necessary. Abner Acosta joined him, and I think he would like to pass him on the outside as well, but he's never going to get that lane to go down.
Love the sounds of these engines. Heard that, though. Is there a little scrape of the wall trying to get the best arc into the corner?
I think there often is off these corners.
These cars can handle it. They're built like tanks.
Yeah, should be fine, especially in the modern day. Actually, they don't fall apart quite like they used to. These cars, they retain their bodywork almost too well, actually, sometimes, as far as driver safety goes, anyway.
Yeah. Oh, trust me. Yeah. It's actually interesting being in the race shop and seeing some of the rules that they continue to try and work on, the front clips, softening them, everything of the sort to make them safer. As Abner Acosta does the undercut this time. So if all things go well, he should, as he almost hits the wall on entry and gets it slowed down, I think, in time, but he should jump Trent Dinkle this time.
He did hit the wall, I think, there, actually. It looked like he did. We're hearing reports that he did. So, no speeding penalty, but a hit on the wall, as you say. Hopefully it's a scrape in which nothing can possibly go wrong for Abner Acosta, because we were enjoying that battle for the lead, and hopefully it continues on the other side of these stops.
Hopefully it certainly does, as Trent Dinkle will do exactly the opposite of what Abner did last time. We'll rejoin that in just a little bit. Here's the battle for 6th on track right now. All these drivers trying to get back onto the lead lap. They will be able to do it because the 2 leaders have come down pit road. We're actually getting a look at a picture
Abner Acosta.
Race control.
Abner Acosta's still on pit lane.
Oh, no.
Trent Dinkle is going to lap Abner Acosta here in a second. You can just see him in the rearview mirror up top there, and there goes Trent Dinkle.
What in the world has happened? He did not have a meatball. He had no damage.
Oh, now he goes.
I am absolutely floored there that he just stayed in the pits for as long as he did. Hopefully we'll be able to get a bit of an answer after the fact, but there was no indication to us that he was going to have to come and stay down pit road. 55-second stop. Maybe he got a speeding penalty, but we haven't seen that on our race control side, and well, that's just kind of taking the wind out of our sails for a battle for the win.
Well, you say that. Trent Dinkle's not winning at the moment, and there's still 35 laps to go. Pat Harvey is in the lead, although he has done 16 laps on his tyres already. He'll be hoping for a caution, I would have thought, before the end of the race. And even if there isn't one, he's going to do his utmost to hold back Trent Dinkle.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the bigger thing here. Jeff Chandler's got 7 laps on his tires. Nick Gowen's got 4 laps, but Trent Dinkle's got the freshest tires of all and is only 4 seconds back of the leader, whose tires are much older than his. Obviously, things can happen quickly. Things can change very quickly. One caution can throw this race off balance, but still, it's something that's going to be really unique as this run continues to go on. If there are any, nice elbows getting out, could we potentially see some extra fireworks with it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that since it is the final part of the race, this is very much where the elbows are going to come out. And are indeed we going to get, excuse me, dear me, are we going to get a caution in this race, or are we going to stay green throughout the entirety of it. I hope, to be honest, that we stay green, because every now and again, especially on the oval side, I'd like to see a race play out in its entirety through green flag racing, so you can see all the strategies emerge, all of them play out to their fullest, and all of the racing at the end that comes with that as the strategies culminate and converge towards the end of a race.
Yes, same. I agree with that. I feel like oftentimes people don't love to see the strategy game play out on ovals just because of the craziness that can come from a some close racing at the end, multiple cautions, all the drivers stacked up together. Nonetheless, it is fun to see these strategies play out, see who's got the best one. But when you've got the fastest driver in this field, time in and time out, and then you've got the best strategy, I feel like there's very few people that can bring that kind of action with Trent. The biggest question to me is who's going to round out the rest of the podium, and how far will Pat Harvey fall before this race ends, because everybody else being on fresher tires than himself. Jeff Chandler currently third. I feel like he's got himself a really good shot to stay on the podium by the time this race is over, maybe even in second.
I don't know, because Trent Dinkle is gaining on Pat Harvey at the moment by about 3 tenths a lap. Even at that speed, he's going to be there with only, 20 laps to go? So that pass might take a little bit of time as well. Maybe Chandler will be right there as well, to be fair, because he is only a second behind on 6-lap older tyres than Trent Dinkle. But I don't think Nicholas Gowen's going to be able to get there, although he's gaining by about 3 tenths a lap. He's 6 seconds behind. That's going to take him 20 laps at least. So then we really are getting into the final 10 and getting into the sort of late stages where you're not entirely sure there's going to be enough time for these passes to happen anymore.
Yeah, I feel like, things get a little bit crazy the later in the race you got to go, but when you also have to manage your equipment, manage the tires, it becomes a little bit more straightforward. You can kind of tell, for example, Trent Dinkle is not going to have too hard of a time passing Pat Harvey. Gained 1.5 seconds over the last few laps, and his last lap time was almost 4 tenths quicker than Pat Harvey. So just goes to show you how much fresh rubber really means to these drivers here. And if you've got tires that are 5 laps newer, you can look like a hero trying to get around everybody else while they're almost looking like they're in mud. But most of the drivers in the middle of this field are kind of together here, and Abner Acosta is racing no one for position, unfortunately, in this battle because he probably got a speeding penalty. We don't know exactly, but that's very unfortunate for him.
Yeah, it would fit about right, unless he got optionals that he decided to take, but you would have thought that's a bit odd, really. As the battling really does start to ramp up a little bit here. Down the inside goes Chad Kibbe on Waldo Walden, and Abner Acosta trying to work his way through them all, and since he's on the newest tyres of everybody, he is going to make pretty light work of this.
I wish that these drivers were on the same strategy to go all out, because it is a nice hornet's nest of craziness and aggression that could come from it. Not every driver in this battle is aggressive, but we've seen Chad Kibbe have his fair share of transgressions on the road with drivers. He's got a ton of speed, though. He reminds me of Maverick Davis in the sense that he and Maverick have a lot of speed right off the bat, but not always are able to show it. As here's the pass for the race lead. Easy does it. It's like stealing candy from a baby right there. Pat Harvey, and looking behind, Tommy Brandon trying to get back onto the lead lap. He's got to pass Trent Dinkle for that, though.
Yep, he will at least be the first car 1 lap down, and we shouldn't see another car go a lap down, so he'll be pretty comfortable as long as there's a caution. But Pat Harvey not able to do anything to hold off Trent Dinkle, even holding on to Trent Dinkle's favourite middle line. He couldn't do anything to hold back the 9 cars. So I'm going to readjust some of my predictions, actually. Jeff Chandler will certainly be able to get himself through in the next couple of laps. So Nicholas Gowen might actually not run out of time here to get into the top 3.
Yeah, and that's as the laps go on and the tires continue to fall off. It doesn't fall off on a linear space, right? A linear kind of time frame. It falls off exponentially. So it'll get worse, and then a little bit more worse, and all of a sudden, a few laps later, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse each lap. It's like that cliff, right, where you just, there's nothing you can do about it. The tires are just gone. They've fallen off. You know, after a pit stop, you'll sometimes see all the tires being rolled, and some of the crew members scrape the tires and get all the marbles and everything else, just the dirtiness off of the rubber, and then they measure the depth of the rubber. That allows them to get a really good reading for how much wear is in it, as Jeff Chandler makes the pass on Pat Harvey for second. And I feel like, again, if given everything here, Chandler is looking at a second place kind of day.
Yeah, I think so. And that's a very good result and a very good return for the efforts made by the driver of the 31 car. Been having a look again at, by the way, some more replays at Abner Acosta's pit entry last time around, and we're still none the wiser. Not seeing any damage that should have needed repairs as optionals. So I think the presumption that it must be a speeding penalty has to be the right one, really, because that's the only thing that fits into the right kind of time frame.
Yeah, for sure. As we take a look here at a replay of Abner Acosta coming out of the pits. Is there something that happened here?
Can't imagine he was taking many risks anymore after feeling the disappointment of falling so far back. But it was our view anyway that in hitting the wall, Abner Acosta actually sort of in a rather unorthodox and unpleasantly, certainly not unpleasant on the eye, just scraped himself along the wall, and that slowed him down enough. And we didn't get any notification to say that there was a speeding penalty either, but I think that must be the thing we've got to presume now.
Yeah, I think so as well. Very unfortunate, as Pat Harvey is really slow coming off the corner. That's going to give Nick Gowen a chance to try and shoot by him at this time across the start-finish line. And Gowen moves up into a podium position now. Battle for third on your screen, but for being honest here, it's not going to be much of a battle. It's going to be a widening of the gap. But well, you know what they don't have, or what we don't have in iRacing on ovals that is happening in real life? Rain. That's a good thing.
Yes.
I'd say that's a very good thing. Right now, the real world Coca-Cola 600 is under red flag for rain delay. I'm 30 minutes above the track, and the storm is wild. It's definitely wild. It should pass within the next hour or so. I don't think they're going to call the race, even though they couldn't make it official. I think we're going to see a lot of racing into the wee hours of the morning in the East Coast time of the United States.
And I'll just clarify that Dylan means half an hour north, not upwards vertically.
I mean, fair. That's a fair
you said
point.
30 minutes upwards.
I mean, that's fair. 30 minutes north. 30 minutes north. You know, I grew up saying to go to the beach in New Jersey, I would say go down the shore, even though I'd be... Oh. Yeah, it's just a verbiage and all that. It's fun.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. Colloquialisms and all that.
Yeah.
So there you go. Yeah, to be honest, they're not going to do this. I hope they'd just wait for tomorrow, really, in real life, but because that means I could go to bed and then watch it at a more reasonable time tomorrow, but that's not going to happen.
Get ready to stay up.
Oh.
That's what I'm thinking. Oh, man. But Luke Christian currently running in P7. Looks like it's not raining too much. I'm not sure if you just heard that strike of thunder from my mic. Okay, that's good. I got a good microphone then. Luke Christian, he's got clear skies under the lights behind him right here. His setup is an interesting spot. I don't usually see a sim rig setup in your main living room, but hey, if you want people to see it as their first walk in, and that's what they see, I think that's a great statement right here. Is the battle between Christian and not really a battle actually. It's Luke Christian
Medina,
as well as Jose Medina trying to get a lap back, but he's way too far to even get that lap back unless there's a caution.
Nick Hunter reminding us that it's
just made a pass.
Yeah, there you go. through he goes. It's a conversation starter in the living room, at least. It's true.
It is very much so a conversation starter. I've frequently had conversations with people about sim racing and iRacing in my real world, and usually they say, Dylan, get your work done. And I said, okay. And then I still talk about it because I enjoy talking about iRacing. As we see Tommy Brandon with a very gamer-like lighting situation with his PC rig to his right. Or is that a 3? That's amazing, actually. All the cleanliness inside that clear case.
You see the technical aspect of these PCs are not my strong point at all, but it does look neat, I suppose, tidy.
I've built my PC a couple of years. I feel like you don't just build one PC. You continue building it over time. It's like you ship a thesis. You replace one part, and then you replace all the parts, and then it's a new PC. When did it become a new PC? Nonetheless, always like seeing some of the setups that these drivers have in their racing rooms. Nick Gowen, by the way, is making up some time on Jeff Chandler. This fight for second in this race is not over yet.
Is he going to take second, I wonder?
Well, he's not going to win.
No, no, he's not.
Ah!
Yeah, there you go. Trent Dinkle is going
solid. Well done. Well done,
Yeah,
Ewan.
Well, I said there was room for one more.
There was.
And, we've squeezed 2 more in, so there you go. But with one guy's name. But anyway, hopefully we can squeeze in one more battle. 11 laps is the margin. Wondering, not whether Pat Harvey's even going to hang on to 4th here. The gaps at which he's losing is, I thought actually it would stay at 3 tenths because everyone's tyres are wearing at the same rate. Well, that's not entirely true. He's losing more than that now.
Yeah, he's losing a lot more right now. His last lap was a 31 to 106. What are we at? What?
There was a dog in the background of Trent Dinkle.
Oh!
But,
Golden?
No, oh, no, definitely not. Don't ask me what breed it was, but it was black.
I didn't see. Oh, yeah, that's not a golden retriever.
It's in the name.
Oh, well, we're probably going to talk with Trent by the time that this race ends. There we go.
Oh, look at that.
Hello.
It looks quite trapped in this room. Or is that door open?
No, that door is certainly open. Oh. It
trying
has
to
a
find a
bed.
space to sit down.
Yeah, it has a bed, just kind of walking around. Nick Gowen has certainly caught Jeff Chandler, by the way. So this is going to be an interesting situation to see if the 31 can hang on to second in this race. But by the speeds that Gowen has caught, I don't think that's going to be the case as Dinkle continues to lead here.
Well, there's only 9 laps to go, so we are at very much the distance now where you can just throw everything at a position, especially with the gap that these two have behind them, to just try and hang on for all you're worth to a position. What he can actually do about this, though, is another prospect. He goes very high through 3 and 4. Nicholas Gowen staying a lot slower and goes straight through.
Yeah, no chance there for Jeff Chandler, but that's okay if he can hang on to third, which he certainly should do. I think that is a okay way to end this day. That started us out with 12 drivers in the field. We currently have 10 on track. Jose Medina has been a lap down for the majority of this race. Tommy Brandon and Avner Constead both also 1 lap down. You're currently seeing the gaps between drivers, the intervals, not the gap to the leader, up on your screen. And Chad Kibbe is right now, besides this Gowen Chandler situation here, Chad Kibbe and Waldo Walden, or I should say, Chad Kibbe and Pat Harvey are the closest battle on track. But we also have to remember that Pat Harvey's tires are 9 laps older than Chad Kibbe's.
I think that was Tommy Brandon right up in the wall again.
Yeah, yep. Tommy Brandon really loving that wall.
Yeah, a bit too much, really. He needs to get a metre
space.
or so lower.
Give some space.
Yeah, and it's not even very quick up there, to be honest. I think we've seen this entirely tonight. The line right up against the wall is not quick, and it's the middle where you really need to be. We've actually had a lot of success in the middle, especially when trying to hold on to positions, but right up next to the wall like that is just a bit slower.
Yeah, it's some tracks where there's more progressive banking up top, you certainly can, but you can get faster. by running right up against the wall. We've seen that Darlington, Kansas, Homestead, Miami. I wouldn't necessarily say Charlotte is the best place for that line as this battle is continue to rage on. And good job from Harvey right here to keep in this battle. And we were talking about it. It's time to throw everything in the kitchen sink at it. There's 5 laps to go. If you can block for all you can.
Yeah, and who takes some solace from the fact that everyone's not going to be particularly enjoying their tyres at the moment, even if he is on the oldest tyres in the field, tied with Lou Christian. He will be a little bit comforted by the fact that Chad Kibbe is not going to be feeling much better on his as he tries to swing low in the 23 out of turn number 4. 4 laps to go for him to try and find his way into 4th.
What a great battle we've got right here between these two drivers. It's certainly one that's with equal footing, even with the tire life that Kibbe should have in the advantage. He must have burnt that off trying to chase everybody else down. Pat Harvey holding off a admittedly should be faster number 23 machine. Now look at this run though that Kibbe gets coming to the line with 3 to go at this time. Lap 148 of 150. The gap continues to close down with Kibbe and Harvey. Kibbe gets down to the inside. We'll throw it in there. They're going to be side by side coming about 1 and 2 here, Ewan.
Yeah, it's going to be Pat Harvey off the exit here, I would have thought. Using the higher side here off of turn 2. And he gets himself back to 4th place, but briefly as Kibbe holds the inside, just drifts off the blue line though.
Yeah, he did just barely drift off against it. That's why we've seen Trent Dinkel want that outside line to fight the drivers on the inside. You use too much of the energy life remaining from these tires when you try and make a move on the outside or the inside. Kibbe decides to follow in the tracks of Harvey. This might work out well for him as both of these drivers start their second and last time coming around 3 and 4. Final lap is signaled. Trent Dinkel in the lead of this race, but this battle, what we're watching right now, is for P4.
Yeah, it's not a great run off of 4 here for Pat Harvey, though. He needs to be a lot further ahead, I would have said, into 1 and 2 as Kibbe's beginning to edge his way past.
Trent Dinkel, what a show, what a season. He's by far the most dominant driver in the field today, and this is his 34th victory in PRL Cup Series competition, tying up atop the leaderboard Richard Regan Jr. Have a day, have a season, Dinkel. And at the end, it looked like Chad Kibbe is probably going to get Pat Harvey for 4th here, although it's getting close. Who won that battle? 2/10 of a second at the line.
Did he run out of fuel or something at the line there? Because he was through. He was past. But I wonder whether he's just run out of fuel. This was the moment. It was side by side into 3 and 4 as he just began to edge his way past. He definitely got through into the corner here as Pat Harvey went too high. Up close to the walls, not where you want to be. But what happened off the exit here? What?
He just got into the wall.
Did he, or did he lift off? I don't know.
Some things I just do not know. It's still his best finish of the season, finishing in 5th, but just questionable things happening in this race, in this 12-car field. Hey, silly hours is basically what we're seeing. That's what happens in endurance racing, and it felt like it was a silly hour, all 150 laps here at Charlotte. Let's take a look at the results of this race before we talk to the top 3 finishers. Trent Dinkel gets the win here by almost 6 seconds over Nick Gowen, who had a really solid run for himself. Jeff Chandler holds on to the final spot of the podium. Pat Harvey, Chad Kibbe, Waldo Waller, and Luke Christian finish on the lead lap. Abner Acosta, Tommy Brandon, 1 lap down. Jose Medina, 2 laps down. And 11th and 12th, Maverick Davis and Marshall Harris, 74 and 126 laps down. Marshall Harris had the fastest lap of the race. No shocker there. With a 29.442 on lap 6. He went in hyperdrive very quickly just to lead some laps. But some of the drivers are ready to be talked to. And we've got, let's go with Jeff Chandler, who finished in P3. Jeff, really, really solid race for you here. I know you might have wanted to hold on to 2nd, but with the tire advantage, that did go in Nick Gowen's favor. It's still a really solid way to end this season.
Man, I appreciate it. I tell you, it's so hard to get a top 5 in this league. It's almost feels like a win.
That's a good feeling as well. Going into next year, or next season, I should say, you got a little bit of a break here, but are there any higher expectations now where you want to finish in the standings?
Yeah, definitely. I've dealt with a medical issue for the past few years, vertigo, and I got, it was where I couldn't even really race much, and so I've got that straightened out. And this year, towards the end of this season, it's really, I could tell the difference in what was going on, and I wasn't getting dizzy and nauseated or anything like that. So I'm pretty thrilled about it.
Well, that's a beautiful thing right there, Jeff, that you're able to fight with that and still put in good results, good races like this. I'm going to give you the floor to shout out who you want to shout out and also talk a little bit about who you were honoring on your car tonight.
I appreciate it. Doyle Lawrence, he does all my paints for me and does such a fantastic job on them. He's always in the supporting me, and he's just a really good friend of mine. It's actually his dad. It's Chief Petty Officer Doyle Lawrence Sr. who's on the car, and I was just honored that he asked me to do that. I'm thrilled that I get to get up here and say something, and he's been a fantastic friend, and it's just nice to be able to give something back to him.
Well, that is awesome to hear, and I'm glad that you were able to support that scheme to support your designer's dad. Awesome job, Jeff, and congrats. A good way to end the year.
Man, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot for you guys. Race Sport is just a fantastic replay to watch. I just love the broadcast.
Well, we appreciate that very much, and thank you for putting on a good show. It makes it easier for us to talk about you.
10-4, man. Thanks a lot, guys.
Take care, Jeff. Very excited to finish in P3, and we'll keep it going with the reverse. And Nick Goen, you're standing by with him, Ewan.
Absolutely, Nick Goen, welcome into the broadcast booth. Second place here tonight at Charlotte for you, 5.8 off the lead in the end. Tell us about that race from your perspective. Are you pleased with the result?
Yeah, it just took me too long to figure out what I was doing wrong. I was fighting a loose race car the first two stints, so Abner and Trent had me beat on the long run, and I just couldn't close that gap on that last run. But happy with the result. Man, just one short of winning. I haven't won in this league yet. I really want it.
Well, it's still a good result, second place. And I mean, do you feel, because there was a stage when you were out front with them actually by quite some way compared to the rest of the field, do you feel, knowing what you know now, that you could have kept up with them for the entire race?
I think so. Yeah. I think I just pushed a little too hard. My entry was just a little too low. Thus, that burned the right rear up, and I was able to maintain that gap to Trent really well on the third stint. But had I been doing that from the very start, what I was doing in the third stint, I think it probably would have been closer. I mean, those guys are tough to beat, but I think it definitely would have been closer.
For sure. Nick, congratulations on second place here tonight, and thanks for coming to chat to us as well.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks very much. Nick Goen there, second place here tonight, behind Trent Dinkle, who wins again. The 9th win in 18 races so far in 2024 for Trent Dinkle. Congratulations, Trent, on another victory. How was that one tonight?
That was a good one. I do kind of wish Abner wouldn't have got a penalty on pit road, because I mean, I think honestly he would have had me beat, but it would have been kind of fun to see what happened there at the end. But yeah, I mean, kind of sucks that there wasn't many people here, but can't blame too many people since it's a good weekend to not be at home. But yeah, it wasn't terrible.
Yeah, it was a fun race up until that point, and of course, motorsport is full of what ifs, and I do hate asking what if questions, but I'm going to do it now anyway. What would have happened between yourself and Abner if he'd come out, maybe, he was going to undercut you for a start? What would have happened there? And then what about for the rest of the stint had he stayed in the race with you?
I mean, I don't know, if we were pretty even the first run, I would have obviously had to push to make up that little gap from the difference of pitting, potentially, just depending on how he would have got off pit road and how I would have got off pit road. But, I mean, he was definitely faster at the end of both of the first runs, but he just couldn't pass down low, and I wasn't gonna give up the top side because I knew that it would be hard to make that pass down low. But yeah, I mean, it was fun. I always like racing like that with Abner.
I learned something new about you tonight, by the way. The fact that's a dog bed behind you. Has the dog ever distracted you in a race?
No, he just sits.
Oh.
He lays back
Saw
there.
it wandering
He's a good
around.
boy.
That's all.
Yeah, he's him and the cat. They just chill in here while I'm racing.
Well, I've never owned a pet, but I would imagine it's distracting. That's why I asked. But there you go. I've never seen it wandering around before, so there you go. There's a first for everything. Thanks very much for coming to chat to us again, Trent. Congratulations on the win.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks very much. Trent Dinkle there, winning his 9th race of 2024.
That guy is fast in a race car. and it's just another Sunday drive to him. It truly is. But what a way to go out with a bang in this season, and the most unofficial of the official results are in, and it's a 54-point lead for Trent Dinkle over Abner Acosta for the final results of this championship, with Pat Harvey finishing in P3, just 2 points in front of Lou Christian for third in the championship. So not a bad bit of teamwork going on there. And not too much farther back was Maverick Davis in fifth. Eric Haag, Jeff Chandler, Chris Hudson, James O'Brien, and Mark Caitlin, your top 10 championship finishers in that one. So some good fun. Private Label Team Hype wins the team's championship with Pioneer Racing in second. SGE Esports is able to get the win over Big Fast Racing for the podium spot, while Going Racing finishes in fifth. Maradness M Squad ASR, Keystone Sim Sport, Maradness M Squad, Jeff Chandler Racing, and Precision Racing Whataback are your top 10 teams. Ewan, that is season 2 of 2024 over. And I think everyone is in need of just a short little break before they get going again.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're going to get before we kick off season 3 of 2024. By the way, sign-ups are open to everybody now. If you want to race in the PRL, it's not just the Cup Series that are available for next season. We've got racing 5 nights of the week, so you can sign up for one of those over on the PRL. I think there's probably a website link in the YouTube description or something, isn't there? But you should be able to find it. Open to anybody to come and race in the PRL now.
Certainly is. PrecisionRacingLeague.com. You can sign up for all the different leagues that are going to come over the course of next season and watch all that action on RaceSpotTV on YouTube. But a good night to be Trent Dinkle. He's champion, he wins the race, and he completes a dominant season in PRL Cup Series action. Ewan O'Leary alongside me. I'm Dylan Coyle. Romero Cisneros in the booth for production, and Hunter in race control. We wish everyone a pleasant good evening, good night, and good racing.